This week's episode is brought to you by the Wetaskiwin Arts and Music Festival Committee, Delcon Visual Arts, and Warren's Music. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor of the Wetaskiwin WonkCast, here's how. Go to our website at delconvisualarts.com/WonkCast and send us a message there, or you can find us on Facebook at Wetaskiwin WonkCast, and you can send us a message there too.
Episode 9 of the WonkCast. Joined in studio today, Lory Kennedy. It's a Kennedy takeover. Last weekend we had Brad Kennedy here, and today, Lory, the father of Brad Kennedy. I wanted to get Lory on the show to kind of, he was here last time just kind of sitting in with Brad, but you guys never got to hear from him. And Brad kind of divulged about his history in music and being raised into it. So I wanted to get kind of Lory's perspective of that and how that whole musical being came into the family. So welcome, Lory.
Well, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
No problem. We're gonna chat with you here today, kind of find out some history with you a little bit about just kind of where everything came from and how you started and your musical roots. Did you have anything in particular that was your family very musical? Was your father or your mother musical that brought you into that kind of realm?
Nobody played music in my family, but music was a big part of things. We had a good stereo in the living room, and music was a big part, but nobody played. I had lots of friends, though, that were excellent musicians, which was actually not great for me because of my attitude was I have a hard time making a C chord, and my 12-year-old friend can rip out licks and do songs. And I just thought I wasn't meant to play music, but I loved listening to it always.
Yeah, and that's I think that's how a lot of people kind of get into music is they just start by listening to it. When did you actually start to pick up your first guitar? Was it from your friends? Was it from where you sitting around at a party and they just said, hey, let's try something and kind of?
Well, actually, I used to do a lot of hitchhiking, and I would carry bongo drums. And I played bongo drums. I would go to a festival and I would find people playing guitars in the back, and I would play bongo drums along. And one time I was hitchhiking out to the coast, I got a ride with a 64-year-old man, and I was 24 at the time. And we were listening to tunes and talking music, and he said, what do you play? And I said, well, I don't play. And he said, well, obviously you like music. And I said, yeah, but I'm too old now. And he told me how he was 60 years old. He always said he wanted to play keyboards, Hammond organ. His children and grandchildren bought him a Hammond organ for his 60th birthday and 6 months' worth of lessons. He told me that after the first lesson, he was hooked and he's no good. He said, you don't have to be good to enjoy music. You don't have to be young. I got out of that car in Vancouver. I was walking down Granville Street, and I saw a guitar in the window of a drugstore in a cardboard box for $9.95. It was a brand new guitar. And I bought that guitar, took 2 of the strings off it, and I had myself a bass. That was my first guitar.
I love that. That's such a cool story about kind of getting into music. Do you still have that guitar?
No, not that one.
No, not that particular one?
No,
you don't have
I don't.
it framed up? And...
Yeah, I would love to. I don't even know what kind it was.
Oh, yeah. I don't even know any drugstores that still sell guitars nowadays. But
yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So you started obviously kind of on the road just with a love for music and going to festivals and everything. How did your love of music get into it? Like, when did you say that you wanted to be an artist or you wanted to be a songwriter?
Yeah.
When did that kind of come?
I always wrote. I wrote poems or I'd write down things about what was happening in my life, and then if I got a letter, which doesn't seem to happen anymore, from a friend, I would just put a dear so-and-so on the top, and I'd sign it at the bottom, and then I'd send off, and that was my letter. So I always wrote, and sometimes there were poems, sometimes just about things. So when I started to play guitar at 24, I also just naturally started to write songs. I felt that. And also my ears aren't very good, so I was pretty flat. And I don't think my guitar was in tune really well for the first couple of years. But I was very enthusiastic and inspired a lot of people.
You had the passion then.
Yes, I loved it.
As a singer-songwriter, I've seen you a few times before at the Beans and the festival and everything. One of my favorite songs of yours is Harvey Hash.
Oh, first song I ever wrote.
Is it really? That's
Yes.
That's so funny because I was just going to ask you the first song you ever wrote. But every time I see you play that, it's always a good reaction from the people and the crowd and everything. There has to be a story behind that song.
Well,
something of amazing proportions.
Not so much amazing. It was in the drug-oriented days of my youth. And back then, before political things changed the way things came into the country, hash was king, and there wasn't really good marijuana. So this was during a time of drought, and I just learned this chord progression from a friend. So we were sitting around, and all of a sudden I came up with this a chorus for it. And then we just all sat around having fun playing this over and over and making up verse after verse till we had the song kind of thing.
That's like the perfect campfire song or party song.
And back then, it was, any time I played that, it was sang along with the chorus or clap along, because back then it meant more than it would now. It's a fun song still, but back then Hash was, like I said, it was king.
Definitely. What's the best reaction you've gotten from a fan point of that song? Has anyone ever come up to you and kind of, said, "Oh, I really love that song"? Or
all the time, it used to happen, and I used to go in the odd competition. I was in a competition in Penticton that was televised, and I did Harvey Hash was the last song I did. Harvey Hash and one I called my Fat Lady song.
Yes.
And a jazzy one called Around Noon. And I had people lined up afterwards to shake my hand either for Harvey Hash or my Fat Lady song. And that was like my rock star moment, I guess.
I absolutely love a lot of your songs, and seeing them live is always fun, because when you look at you from a fan perspective, you definitely look kind of like a children's entertainer, I would think. Yeah, and then you hear songs like Harvey Hash and everything, but it brings this fun balance to it that everybody of all ages can get into. Like, I loved it, and people I with when I went to see you, they loved it, and it's kind of a whole demographic.
My kids were raised hearing them songs, and it never hurt them. What stopped me playing Harvey Hash quite a few years ago was I was a cub leader.
Oh.
And we were at a cub camp, and any time back then you break the guitar out, people just flocked around you. It was just the way it seemed to be. It still is a bit, but not as much. So I pulled the guitar out, and I'm playing a couple of kids' camp songs, and I started in on Harvey Hash. I got about halfway through the second verse, and I thought, maybe this is not the type of song I should be playing here. That's when I got into kids' songs. And then I got really into kids' songs when I was day custodian at CB Elementary School. And I would practice guitar during all my breaks, and kids would often come into my office. So I started playing in classrooms, doing a few traditional songs. And then I just started writing my own. And I've got at least 15 or 16 kids songs now that I wrote. And it got so, and I have a stupid hat on. I always wear hats when I'm playing, partly because when I started doing these kids songs, I had a different hat for each song. Oh. And it got so when I played for a classroom, the kids would see me put a hat on, they'd know which song I was going to play. And also now I wear a hat all the time because my hair is getting so damn thin.
I was just telling somebody about that the other day. I said, if you ever see country singers always wear hats, there's a reason. That's because, most of them you never see on stage bald or whatever, because they're always losing hair. But yeah, no, that's great, because then the kids can recognize it and can kind of see that from the songs coming, and it's something for everybody. Starting out with that, and starting out with kind of having that balance between kids' songs and those kind of fun songs that the parents can also kind of get to. Do you have a favorite song you wrote?
Well, my first one, of course, in a way, but one of the most popular and kind of a favorite one I do is either Chicken Legs.
Yeah.
I wrote that at CB, and I'll bare the bottom part of my legs, and it's pretty clear why I wrote it. And also one that I just wrote in about 2015 called On Getting Older, called Our Tummies Touch First.
Oh, I like that.
You could go a lot of places with that one.
That's it for sure.
Yeah.
How often do you play? Because I know it's kind of, for local musicians, it's kind of tough because we don't really, with Alberta and everything, we have winter and it's difficult to kind of have festivals on often. But how often do you get out and actually play live shows?
I don't get out a lot playing shows. I play with friends often, and I play daily, and I have a stage built at home that I pretty well live on in the summer. And but I don't. I'm very poor at self-promotion and trying to get out to things. I played Beans a couple of times when they were first doing it, but now he's saying it's very good because it's awesome. It's quite popular, and I see as a list there a lineup for.
Yeah, there's always.
Which is awesome. The same with Maniloc Center there. I went to the open mic a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that, and I keep meaning to, but it'll happen, and that's the weekend I've got to go to Calgary for something.
Right.
I just don't seem to get around to it. I hopefully am in for a festival or so. Just enjoyed that. Whenever I go to the coast, I do busking in Victoria.
Right.
And I've done a bit of busking on the streets in Edmonton. But I play daily at home and
to kind of get the feel.
Don't get out enough.
Yeah.
I plan on hitting the streets of Wetaskiwin this summer and doing some busking.
That would be cool.
I went out.
I think we need that.
I went out one time last year. I got a picture of myself doing it, and I know I'm not going to make any money, but the idea of busking is to get out there and have a good time anyway. So anybody that listens, see me on Main Street, don't feel obligated to stop and throw money in, but stop and say hi or listen. I intend on being on the streets a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think with the new Jubilee Park there, the kind of stage they built there, I think
it looks nice.
Yeah, I think definitely that would be something cool for the summer to bring music and everything involved.
And Main Street generally.
Main Street is always
up. There's a lot of spots now where
a
person could
and busking is such an old kind of traditional thing that you don't see often nowadays. No. You see it still a little bit, kind of in the bigger cities.
Cities, it's very big, and buskers in the big cities can make a good living.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's which is awesome. I love busking because I like to stand and play guitar and have people walk by and ignore me. And then have maybe 1 in 20 or something, where all of a sudden a family stop and the kids start dancing to what you're playing. And it makes it all worth it. It doesn't matter how many walk by and ignore. It just takes one to stop and enjoy it, and the afternoon was worthwhile.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and they love it, and it's good for them because it's free entertainment and everything. And I think with that line, you got to write a busking song now. I think that was a great intro line to like a busking song. Don't you love playing guitar when people are walking by and ignoring you? I think that's like a bluesy kind of. So when you're busking traditionally, do you play originals or do you play covers?
I do most of the originals. Sometimes it's about half and half. Because people, they'll stop quicker if they recognize a song.
Right.
My oldest son is an incredible busker, and he knows like all kinds of Beatles songs and songs from the 50s and 60s or modern. So people stop. They love to recognize something, So it's probably a bit of a drawback to me, is I like to play my own stuff.
Yeah.
But also I kind of have an eclectic taste in music. So when I play covers, it might be Dan Hicks and the Hot Licks, or Kinky Friedman and the Texas Pupils. It'll be a little bit out. Or I also like to do Waylon.
Yeah,
Waylon and Willie, and I even do one July Talk song. I like to
mix it up a little bit.
Same with I like doing Budapest.
Oh,
very. When I was young, I liked to listen to underground music. And when the FM stations first came on, they were only at night. And if you wanted to listen to really neat music, you drove late at night and listened to CKUA. And you never knew what the heck was going to come on. Coast, when I was living there, you had to know where the FM stations were, kind of thing, to listen to the really good stuff that you didn't hear on the AM station. certain spots where you knew if you were driving around in your car, you could get really
the best sound,
really good reception, yeah, and fun. But I also like the underground scene, the scene in Edmonton, the bands, the local bands as well as big bands. Eh?
The underground scene is always good.
It was always great. The White Snake Blues Band and the Black Blues Band and Trials of Jason Hoover and all these bands, and up in Edmonton, Stony Plain and I can't remember, Every Man's Tonto, and there were some just awesome bands. I loved hearing the local bands, and then you go to something. My first big concert, The Who. Holy crap! I didn't know that there was this other level of musicianship, you know. All the local bands you saw, and
you saw the tiny little bars,
awesome, you know, and they were just great. And then you see something like The Who, and man, there is another level. Yeah, and I know now that a lot of times the sound isn't as good for them lead-up bands either.
Yeah, no.
And stuff, you know, there's all this stuff that you don't realize. And,
well, I think that's totally all done on purpose. I mean, generally. Like, I went to see over the summer, saw Metallica. They had an opening band, Avenged Sevenfold. And Avenged Sevenfold's sound was not that good.
No.
But Metallica sounded perfect.
You know, a band...
It was all coming from the same board.
A band that big...
Yeah.
And yet, because they're the lead-up band, you can tell the difference.
Oh, absolutely.
I went to, when Brad was with his first metal band, Reaver, went to their CD release, and the other bands that played, as soon as they finished, they moved this big subwoofer thing in position in front of the stage. And, you know, there we go. This called It's Hard to Do One Thing at the Same Time. Try to channel kind of a Johnny Cashy feel. It's hard to do one thing at the same time, and to do nothing suits me just fine. I would get a job, but I can't cross that line. It's hard to do one thing at the same time. My friend has a job, he's a multitasker. I'd like to date his sister, but I'd have to ask her. Showing initiative's not a trait of mine. It's hard to do one thing. It's hard to do one thing at the same time. When we're doing nothing, suits me just fine. I would get a job, but I can't cross that line. It's hard to do one thing at the same time. I don't keep too clean. My BO's atrocious. And as for my breath, I have halitosis. I know a hard bath would feel so fine, but it's hard to do one thing. Same time, when to do nothing suits me just fine. I would get a job, but I can't cross that line. It's hard to do one thing at the same time. I'd like to get fit with an exercise regime, but that's not really part of my scheme. It would take commitment, and I don't like to whine, but it's hard to do one thing at the same time. It's hard to do one thing at the same time. When to do nothing suits me just fine. I would get a job, but I can't cross that line. It's hard to do one thing at the same time. Can't keep a job or a date, and I'm not too clean. But there's something I'm good at, you'll see what I mean. That's procrastination, I'm doing just fine. And it's hard to do one thing at the same time. It's hard to do one thing at the same time. When to do nothing suits me just fine. I would get a job, but I can't cross that line. It's hard to do one thing at the same time. It's hard to do one thing at the same time.
I finally have a theme song.
My sister,
So you're okay, great.
my sister phoned me one night and said, this kid gave me this excuse for not having his homework done, and I think you'd find a song in there. And
that
that's
was
where I got
funny.
that. It's
Oh
hard
my
to do
God, that's
one thing
funny.
at the same time.
That's funny.
I think about 10 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great song. I love it.
I love that. I love the chorus on there.
Yeah,
where you go
yeah.
up high,
Well,
or it feels like it should be done by those Mexican.
And William and I used to do that when we had the bulb and the brittle.
Oh, really?
And he sang high background.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, and it was awesome.
Yeah,
we just ripped out on that one.
Man. I got
And
a
he
good
also
favorite
could play,
song.
he can also play really good lead, too.
Wow.
I won this at Thames when Thane was here. $10 ticket on fundraising thing he was having, and I won $350 worth of in-store stuff, so I got this guitar and a tuner. And I think he gave me $10 off or something, or threw in the tuner. And I've done 3 fringes with this guitar. I've also changed it. Instead of on the bass strings, the 3 bass strings, instead of on an octave up, I've just doubled up the bass strings.
Oh, okay, I see.
I'm mostly by myself, and I find I lack the bass. So I've tried to make it so this is... it gives the guitar a bit of a weird sound, a little bit of a different sound, but...
For those who can't see, the guitar actually has a pair of eyes on it and a mirror on it as well, so which is very cool. It makes it a very unique kind of a look to it.
Yeah. I tend to mess up or change most of my... I like doing things to my guitars, my instruments that make them personal. Eyeballs is one thing.
Have you named it? Do you have a name for it?
No, I don't have a name for any of my instruments, which is kind of weird, I guess, because I love all my instruments.
You got to give that one a name sometime.
No
guitar
name.
with no name.
No guitar. I've been to the open mic and a guitar with no name.
I like it. See, that's perfect.
And you can sing along if you want to. Well, it's a Harvey Hash, Harvey Hash, when you gonna get your secret stash? Harvey rode into town one day, middle of the month in the hot dusty May. The townsfolk, they said, Harvey, we need hash soon again. Not all winter in the way down till June, but we need it. Harvey Hash, Harvey Hash, when you gonna get your secret stash? Well, Harvey just stood there kind of staring around, sucking on the hash reefer that somehow he found. His bottom jaw dropped and he began to speak. He said, I'll get it for you in about a week, but we need it. Harvey Hash, Harvey Hash, when you gonna get your secret stash? The townsfolk were grooving their hash and rise, riding by Harvey from the heavenly skies. His faithful horse resin had snuck up from behind, reached over Harv's shoulder and gave the townsfolk the sign that it's a Harvey Hash, Harvey Hash, when you gonna get your secret stash? They smoking, they're hooping and chilling. So Harvey feared he'd be quite a killer. He never got money, he only got thanks because the people were too stoned to make it to the banks because of the Harvey Hash, Harvey Hash, when you gonna get your secret stash? Well, Harvey, you're out there, we want you to know you did call a favor in our times of woe. With your Nepalese temple, red Lebanese, Afghani queen brought us all to our knees. So Harvey, you're out there, we will ask you this. Please come visit us with some down rock and bliss. We need it. Harvey Hash, Harvey Hash, when you gonna get your secret stash? Well, Harvey got up and rolled out of town, and his faithful horse resin laid with hash to the ground. His eyes were so bloodshot he could hardly see. Harvey will be back, probably, because it's Harvey Hash, Harvey Hash, when you gonna get your secret stash? It's Harvey Hash, Harvey Hash, when you gonna get your secret stash?
You just instantly have a good time listening.
That's funny stuff.
So if you're listening, we're in the studio with Lory Kennedy. We're just about to wrap up here. Thank you so much for coming down, Lory, and playing us those 2 fantastic original songs and having a chance to chat with us today. During this segment of the podcast, we usually get the artists to kind of have a free for all and kind of say what if they have anything coming up, or if they want to just kind of talk about something, we kind of give them that chance. So is there anything you want to kind of let everyone know today?
All right, I'd like to say that if you hear of Lonesome Lory, that's what I go by, and come out and check me out. I think I'm playing at the Firefly Festival, but I'm not sure. And but I would encourage everybody to go out to the open mics, go to Beans, check out the Prairie Soul Revival or Shattered Chaos. I can't remember their new name. And check out local musicians.
Absolutely.
And if you're a local musician, get out there yourself. And I'm talking to me. Wetaskiwin is developing a great music scene again, and it's awesome to see, because there used to be a music scene many years ago, and bands could have a good time. They could play every weekend. There were bands everywhere, and it seems to be slowly to try and come back.
Yeah.
And that would be nice.
Absolutely. And having, like Dale was saying, having that support from everybody and the different musicians and everything really, I think, kind of helps everybody in that realm. You know, when everybody goes to each other's shows and kind of, you know, if they can, or supports them in some way, that kind of makes it a close-knit kind of family.
All the music scenes are so friendly, I find.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And
very
all
friendly.
of them, you know.
Very friendly. Such talent we have here in Wetaskiwin. We've talked about that in previous podcasts, and of course, you've been listening for the past 9 or so weeks that we've been on now. You've definitely heard of some of our talent, and we're going to have more coming on. It's great to be kind of around and seeing all this music and all this talent prosper.
Oh,
and you know, just more and more comes up all the time with these new bands. So if you're, like Lory was saying, go out, support local music. You know, chances are it doesn't cost anything, or it doesn't cost much, and you know, you can see someone who's just starting out. And
You never know. You
That's
never
right.
know what you're going to see.
You
Some
absolutely never
incredible
know.
musician might never go anywhere, but
Yeah.
might be the only chance you ever get to see something that awesome.
Absolutely.
The spontaneity and seeing somebody get up there for the first time at an open mic or something and blow everybody away with a beautiful voice, or with their skills, or even just with their confidence. Because it's a great industry, or a great art form, whatever you want to consider it, music.
Thank you so much, Lonesome Lory Kennedy, for joining us. Episode 9 of the WonkCast.
This week's episode is brought to you by the Wetaskiwin Arts and Music Festival Committee, Delcon Visual Arts, and Warren's Music.